They called for help, but the Deathworlders of Earth answered instead. The alarm bells rang through the peaceful colony on Thessian Prime's largest moon. Administrator Velthara's hands shook as she activated the emergency communication system. Outside her window, she could see the dark ships descending from the sky like metal vultures. The Krynox raiders had found them. Her people were not warriors. The Velhari had never been warriors. They were mathematicians, philosophers, artists. Their bodies were thin and fragile, adapted to low-gravity worlds where violence was a distant memory. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back against what was coming. Velthara's fingers moved across the holographic display, sending out the distress call on all known frequencies. Her message was simple and desperate. The colony was under attack. They needed help. They needed anyone who could hear them. "Please," she whispered into the microphone, her voice breaking. "We are peaceful people. We have children here. We have elders. Please, someone help us." The first explosion shook the colony buildings. Velthara could hear screaming in the distance. The Krynox were not patient raiders. They took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. Hundreds of light years away, Captain Hyunwoo sat in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station. He was drinking his third cup of coffee when the distress signal came through. The computer translated the alien language into Korean, then English, then several other Earth languages. "Sir, we have an emergency transmission," said the communications officer. "It's from a Velhari colony. They're under attack." Hyunwoo set down his coffee and walked to the main display. The signal was weak but clear enough. He could hear the fear in the alien administrator's voice. He had heard that kind of fear before, back when he served in Earth's military before humanity reached the stars. "Where's the Coalition fleet?" he asked. "The nearest Coalition response unit is 4 days away, sir. The Velhari colony will be destroyed by then." Hyunwoo studied the star map. Earth's nearest rapid response ship could reach Thessian Prime in 18 hours. It would be tight, but possible. "Get Commander Ji-Yoon on the line," he said. "Tell her we have a mission." The liaison officer from the Velhari embassy stood up quickly. His name was too complex for humans to pronounce easily, so everyone called him Liaison Vel. He looked worried. "Captain, with respect, the Krynox raiders are a serious threat. They have defeated trained military forces before. Perhaps we should wait for the Coalition military." Hyunwoo looked at the alien. Vel was taller than him but weighed maybe half as much. His bones were hollow, adapted for low gravity. His species had never known war until they met other species in space. 4 days is too long," Hyunwoo said. "Those people will be dead in 4 days. But Captain, you only have one rapid response ship available. The Krynox will have hundreds of warriors. Then we'll have to be better than hundreds of them." Liaison Vel's face showed something that might have been fear. Humans scared him. They scared most species in the galaxy. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets known to support intelligent life. Everything on Earth seemed designed to kill, and somehow humans had survived and thrived there. An hour later, Commander Ji-Eun arrived at the briefing room. She was shorter than Hyunwoo, but had the bearing of someone who had seen combat many times. Her eyes were sharp and calculating as she reviewed the mission parameters. "The Velhari have no defensive capabilities," Hyunwoo explained. "The Krynox are after their mathematical archives. Worth billions on the black market. How many hostiles? Estimates say between 200 and 300. Ji-Eun did not look concerned. "What's our team size?" "You pick. Quick deployment, fast strike." She thought for a moment. "I want Taemin on medical, Haewon on tech, Woo-Jin on weapons, and Nari on pilot. 5 people plus me." Liaison Vel made a choking sound. 6 people? Against hundreds of Krynox raiders? "This is suicide." Ji-Eun looked at him calmly. "Have you ever seen humans in combat?" "No, but I have read the reports. You are aggressive. You use forbidden tactics. You seem to enjoy violence." "We don't enjoy it," Ji-Eun said quietly. "We're just very good at it." Within 3 hours, the team was assembled and the ship was ready. The rapid response vessel was called the Incheon, named after a famous battle from Earth's history. It was small and fast, designed for quick insertions and extractions. Taemin loaded medical supplies while Woo-Jin checked the weapons inventory. Haewon ran diagnostics on the ship's systems while Nari programmed the flight path. They moved with practiced efficiency, speaking little but understanding everything. Hyunwoo came to see them off. "The Coalition is watching this mission closely," he told Ji-Eun. "Earth is still on probation status. They expect us to fail. Then we won't fail, Ji-un replied. The Velhari are scared of us. They asked for help, but now that they know humans are coming, they're almost as scared of us as they are of the Krynox. Ji-un understood. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. They were from a death world. They were aggressive. They healed from injuries that would kill other species. They could eat things that were poisonous to everyone else. They pursued prey for days without stopping. They were the monsters that other species told scary stories about. We'll show them there's a difference between dangerous and evil. She said. The Incheon launched from the station and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Inside, the team prepared in silence. Each of them had served in Earth's military before joining the space program. Each of them had seen what humans could do when they had to fight. Taemin checked his medical kit one more time. He had supplies for treating humans and a few common alien species. He also had combat stimulants, painkillers, and emergency surgery equipment. On Earth, field medics learned to keep soldiers fighting even with injuries that should be fatal. Wu Jin cleaned his weapons with careful precision. The armory had standard energy weapons that most species used, but he preferred the old-fashioned kinetic weapons that Earth had perfected over centuries of warfare. Bullets were simple, reliable, and terrifying to species that had never faced them before. Hae-won studied the technical specifications of Velhari computer systems. She would need to hack into the colony's network quickly to assess the situation and possibly access the Krynox communications. She smiled slightly. Human computer systems had been designed to resist hacking by other humans, which made them absurdly good at breaking alien systems. Nari ran through the flight simulations again. The moon's gravity was only 0.3 compared to Earth. The atmosphere was thin. She would have to adjust her approach vectors, but the low gravity meant she could push the ship harder than would be safe on Earth. Ji-un sat in the command chair and reviewed what little intelligence they had on the Krynox. They were experienced raiders who had conquered dozens of peaceful worlds. They used standard galactic weapons designed to incapacitate through pain rather than kill. They wore armor that could deflect energy weapons. They had never faced humans before. That would be their mistake. 18 hours after launch, the Incheon dropped out of FTL speed above Thessian Prime. The moon hung in space below them, small and pale. Smoke rose from several areas of the main colony. We're too late, Nari said quietly. No, Ji-un replied, pointing at her display. Life signs are still strong. They're hiding. The Krynox haven't found them all yet. Then let's make sure they never do, Wu Jin said, chambering around in his rifle. The Incheon began its descent. On the surface, Administrator Velthara saw the human ship entering the atmosphere. She did not know whether to feel relieved or more terrified. The Deathworlders had arrived. The Incheon screamed through the atmosphere of Thessian Prime's moon at a speed that made Liaison Vel close his eyes in fear. He had insisted on coming with the human team, and now he regretted that decision. The forces pressing against his body felt like they would crush him. In the pilot's seat, Nari smiled. The G-forces were strong, but nothing compared to training exercises back on Earth. She pushed the ship even harder, diving at an angle that would have torn apart most civilian vessels. 30 seconds to landing zone, she announced calmly. Ji-un and her team checked their weapons one last time. The gravity on this moon was only 0.3 of Earth's gravity. They had trained for low-gravity combat, but it was still strange. Every movement would be faster, every jump would go higher, every fall would be slower. The ship landed hard in the colony's main plaza, kicking up dust and debris. The rear hatch dropped open before the engines had even fully powered down. Ji-un led her team out at a run. The first thing they noticed was how easy it was to move. The low gravity made them feel light and strong. Wu Jin jumped over a barrier that was 3 meters tall without breaking stride. Taemin carried his full medical pack like it weighed nothing. The second thing they noticed was the destruction. Buildings had been torn open. Fires burned in several areas. Bodies lay in the streets, though thankfully not as many as they had feared. The Velhari were hiding, which meant they were smart and still alive. The third thing they noticed was the Krynox. A group of 12 raiders appeared around the corner of a building. They were larger than humans, wearing heavy armor and carrying energy weapons. When they saw the humans, they stopped in surprise. These were not Velhari. These were something else. Unknown species, surrender immediately, the lead Krynox called out in Galactic Common. This colony is under Krynox control. Ji-un raised her weapon. Leave now or we will make you leave. The Krynox laughed. There were 12 of them and only 6 humans. They had weapons and armor. They were experienced warriors. These small creatures did not look dangerous. They opened fire. Energy bolts lanced through the air, striking the humans directly. The weapons were designed to cause maximum pain, overloading nervous systems and forcing enemies to surrender. Against most species, a single shot would drop a grown adult screaming in agony. The humans stumbled. They grimaced, and then they kept advancing. Taemin took a shot to the shoulder that should have paralyzed his entire arm. He switched his weapon to his other hand and kept firing. Woojin took a hit to the chest that should have stopped his heart. He grunted and took 3 more steps forward before returning fire. The Krynox's confidence evaporated. What were these creatures? Why weren't they falling? Why weren't they screaming? Target acquired, Woojin said calmly. His rifle barked 3 times. Kinetic rounds, not energy bolts. Solid metal moving at supersonic speeds. The first round punched through the lead Krynox's energy shield like it was not even there. The shield was designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles. The round hit the raider's armor and knocked him backward. The second and third rounds found 2 more targets. The Krynox had never encountered weapons like this. In the civilized galaxy, everyone used energy weapons. They were clean, efficient, and could be set to non-lethal settings. Kinetic weapons were considered primitive and brutal. The humans used them anyway. Ji-eun coordinated her team with hand signals. Haewon moved left with Taemin, flanking around a destroyed building. Nari stayed behind them, covering their advance with precise shots. Woojin moved right, his rifle picking off targets with mechanical efficiency. The Krynox tried to fall back, but the humans moved faster than should be possible in this gravity. They bounded across obstacles, rolled behind cover, and advanced with a speed that looked like it came from an action movie. One Krynox raider tried to run. Nari shot him in the leg. He fell and Taemin was on him in seconds, binding his hands with restraints. "Prisoner secured," the medic called out. Another raider tried to call for reinforcements. Haewon hacked his communication device remotely, jamming the signal and sending false information back to his squad. The raider looked at his device in confusion, not understanding how these primitives could access his technology so easily. The firefight lasted less than 3 minutes. When it was over, 4 Krynox were dead, 7 were injured and restrained, and 1 had escaped to warn the others. Ji-eun let him go deliberately. She wanted the Krynox to know what was coming. Liaison Vel stumbled out of the ship looking pale. He had watched the fight from the safety of the Inchin's monitors. That was a light contact, Ji-eun said. "Where are the Velhari hiding?" A voice called out from a nearby building. "We are here. We are in the shelters." Administrator Velthara emerged from a doorway, moving carefully. She looked at the humans with wide eyes. They were shorter than Velhari, but so much denser. Their bodies looked like they were made of muscle and bone, designed for fighting. They had taken shots that should have killed them and barely seemed to notice. You came," she whispered. "You called," Ji-eun replied simply. "How many Krynox are there total?" "We estimate 250, maybe more. They have a command ship in orbit. They are searching for our mathematical archives." Haewon pulled out a portable computer. "Where are your computer systems? I need to access them." "In the central building, but the Krynox control that area now." "Then we'll take it back," Woojin said, reloading his rifle. Taemin was already treating the wounded Velhari who were emerging from the shelters. He worked with practiced efficiency, but he could see the problem. These aliens were so fragile. Their bones broke easily. Their skin tore from minor impacts. Even his gentlest touch seemed to hurt them. "Get back in the shelters," Ji-eun ordered. "All civilians return to safety. We will handle the Krynox." "But there are so many of them," Velthara protested. "You are only 6. Ji-eun looked at her with calm, dark eyes. 6 is more than enough." The team moved out toward the central building. The Krynox had set up a defensive perimeter with barricades and automated turrets. It was a strong position that would take a conventional force hours to assault. The humans studied it for 30 seconds. "Haewon, can you disable those turrets?" Ji-eun asked. "Give me 2 minutes. Nari, can you get us on that roof?" The pilot looked at the building, calculating angles and distances. "Yes, but it will be a rough ride. Woojin, when we breach, I want suppressing fire on the main entrance. Already planned. Taemin, stay with me. We go in first." The medic nodded. His medical training was secondary to his combat training. On Earth, combat medics were soldiers first and doctors second. HFY pulled out a small device and pointed it at the automated turrets. The device sent a cascade of commands through the turrets' simple computer systems. The turrets had been designed with security in mind, but whoever programmed them had never encountered human hackers. Within 90 seconds, all 4 turrets shut down. The Krynoks inside the building noticed immediately. They rushed to check the turrets, exposing themselves in the process. Nari fired a grappling hook at the roof of the building. The low gravity made vertical movement easy. She activated her jump jet and soared upward, carrying Taemin with her. They landed on the roof with barely a sound. Ji-Eun and Woo-Jin charged the main entrance. The Krynoks defenders fired at them, but the humans dodged and weaved with impossible agility. The low gravity that made Velhari clumsy made humans fly. Woo-Jin reached the barricade and vaulted over it in one smooth motion. He landed behind 3 Krynoks raiders and struck them with the butt of his rifle before they could turn around. They dropped like stones. Ji-Eun followed, her weapon barking controlled bursts. She moved like water, flowing around obstacles and through gaps in the defenses. The Krynoks tried to target her, but she was never where they expected. From the roof, Taemin dropped through a skylight, landing in the center of the building's main hall. Krynoks raiders turned toward him in surprise. Before they could fire, Nari dropped through behind him, her weapon already blazing. The building was secured in 4 minutes. HFY entered last and headed straight for the computer systems. Her fingers flew across the interface as she accessed the Velhari networks. "Got it," she said. "The mathematical archives are intact. The Krynoks haven't found them yet." "Good," Ji-Eun said. "Now let's make sure they never do. HFY, I need access to the Krynoks communication network." "Give me 5 minutes." Ji-Eun looked at her team. They were barely breathing hard. Taemin had a burn on his arm from an energy weapon, but he had already treated it. Woo-Jin was reloading. Nari was checking her jump jet fuel. They had fought their way through 30 Krynoks raiders and secured a major position. And they were just getting started. Outside, the remaining Krynoks forces regrouped. They sent a message to their command ship. The message was simple but urgent. Unknown hostile species. Extremely dangerous. Request immediate reinforcements. In orbit, the Krynoks commander looked at the message in confusion. Extremely dangerous? The Velhari had no military at all. What could possibly be dangerous about this colony? He was about to find out. The Krynoks elite shock troops arrived 2 hours after the humans secured the central building. These were not regular raiders. These were warriors who had trained for years, equipped with powered armor and heavy weapons. 50 of them deployed in a coordinated assault formation that had crushed military forces across a dozen worlds. They advanced on the central building with confidence. They had reviewed the brief footage from the earlier fight. The unknown species was fast and aggressive, yes, but they were small. 50 elite warriors in powered armor would be more than enough. Ji-Eun watched them approach from the building's 2nd floor. She had positioned her team carefully. Woo-Jin was on the roof with his rifle. Nari was in the basement near an emergency exit. HFY was in the computer room still working. Taemin was with Ji-Eun, his medical supplies ready. "They think they have us trapped," Taemin observed. "Good," Ji-Eun replied. "Let them think that." The Krynoks opened fire with heavy weapons designed to demolish buildings. Explosions rocked the structure. Walls cracked. Windows shattered. Any normal building would have collapsed. Any normal defenders would have died. The humans moved. Nari activated charges that HFY had placed in the basement. The explosions were carefully calculated, collapsing part of the building's foundation, but not all of it. The building tilted, throwing the Krynoks' assault off balance. Woo-Jin fired from the roof, his bullets finding the weak points in powered armor that manufacturers never expected anyone to target. Joints, seals, visual sensors. His ammunition was not random. Every round was specially designed to pierce, fragment, or disable. Ji-Eun and Taemin exited through a side wall, literally breaking through the weakened structure. They emerged behind the Krynoks formation, weapons firing. The low gravity let them move in ways that looked impossible, jumping over obstacles and changing direction mid-air. The Krynoks elite spun to face this new threat. But that was what Ji-Eun wanted. It exposed their backs to Woo-Jin's position. It split their attention. It broke their formation. The humans had learned warfare on Earth, where conflicts had lasted generations and every trick had been tried. They fought dirty. They used terrain. They adapted constantly. Against species that fought with honor and formation and tradition, human tactics seemed chaotic and unpredictable. They were. One Krynox warrior charged at Ji-un with a powered blade. He was strong and his armor multiplied that strength. But Ji-un did not try to match his strength. She dodged, letting the blade pass centimeters from her body. She struck at his knee joint where the armor was weakest. The warrior stumbled. She struck again at his helmet seal. Air hissed out. The warrior tried to turn, but Taemin hit him from behind with a stun baton charged to maximum. The warrior fell. Ji-un was already moving to the next target. The battle was chaos. The Krynox had expected a siege. They had gotten an urban brawl where their heavy weapons and tight formations were disadvantages. The humans moved through the battlefield like ghosts, appearing, striking, and vanishing. Wu Jin exhausted his rifle ammunition and switched to a shotgun. At close range and low gravity, the weapon was devastating. Each shot sent Krynox warriors flying backward, their armor dented and systems damaged. Nari used her jump jet to leap from building to building, always staying mobile, always shooting from unexpected angles. The Krynox tried to track her movement, but she was too fast, too random. She did not follow patterns. She did not think like they did. After 15 minutes of fighting, the Krynox elite began to retreat. They had lost 20 warriors and wounded a dozen more. The humans had taken injuries too. Taemin had a deep cut across his ribs. Ji-un's armor was cracked in 3 places. But they kept fighting. They kept moving. They kept winning. The surviving Krynox pulled back to regroup. Their commander was furious. How were these creatures doing this? What were they? HFY had found the answer in the galactic databases. She called Ji-un over to the computer terminal. "I've been researching our opponents," she said. "And I found something interesting. We've been classified." On the screen was Earth's official Galactic Coalition file. Class 12 Deathworld. Gravity 1.0 G. Atmosphere high in oxygen. Extreme weather. Dangerous fauna and flora. Sentient species human. Status extremely dangerous. "They know what we are," Ji-un said. "Yes, and they're scared. I've accessed their command channel." "They're requesting evacuation." Ji-un thought for a moment. "Can you send them a message?" "What kind of message?" "Tell them we're willing to accept their surrender. Tell them we'll guarantee safe treatment for prisoners under Earth military code. But tell them if they continue to attack the Velhari, we'll show them why Earth is a Class 12 death world." HFY sent the message. The Krynox command ship received it in confused silence. The commander read it 3 times. These humans were offering mercy? Warriors from a death world were offering to spare them? He laughed and deleted the message. His forces outnumbered the humans 40 to 1. He would not surrender to 6 Deathworlders no matter how dangerous they were. "Deploy all remaining forces," he ordered. "Sweep through the colony. Kill anything that resists." On the ground, Ji-un received the response, or rather the lack of response. She looked at her team. Taemin was injecting himself with combat stimulants to dull the pain from his injuries. Wu Jin was constructing improvised explosives from materials HFY had found in the colony's mining supplies. Nari was repairing her jump jet with spare parts. "They rejected our offer," Ji-un said quietly. "Then we do this the hard way," Wu Jin replied. The team spread out across the colony. They no longer defended a single position. They became hunters, and the colony became their hunting ground. HFY hacked into the colony's mining equipment. The Velhari used automated drillers and excavators for their mineral extraction. Under her control, these machines became weapons. A group of Krynox raiders marched down a street, and a mining drill burst from underground, scattering them in panic. Wu Jin set traps using the improvised explosives. He used the low gravity to his advantage, hiding charges on rooftops and in air vents where heavier species would never think to look. Krynox warriors triggered them and were thrown around like toys. Nari became a nightmare from above. She would appear on a rooftop, fire a burst, and vanish before return fire could find her. The Krynox started looking up nervously, flinching at every shadow. Taemin moved through the battlefield like death itself. The combat stimulants had fully kicked in. He could not feel pain. He could not feel fatigue. He moved with mechanical precision, treating wounded Velhari in one moment and engaging Krynox warriors in the next. When a raider tried to take a Velhari child hostage, Taemin covered 50 meters in seconds and struck the raider so hard his helmet cracked. Ji-un coordinated everything from a mobile position, moving constantly, never staying in one place long enough to be found. She used the colony's infrastructure against the invaders. Water pipes became improvised weapons when she opened the valves, flooding entire sections with high-pressure water. Oxygen storage tanks became area denial weapons when she ignited them. The Krynox had trained to fight armies. They had not trained to fight guerrilla warfare conducted by persistence predators who never stopped, never slowed, and never gave up. After 6 hours, the Krynox ground forces had been reduced to scattered groups hiding in buildings, afraid to move. Every time they tried to regroup, the humans found them. Every time they set up a defensive position, the humans flanked them or bypassed them or collapsed the building on top of them. In orbit, the Krynox commander watched his forces being destroyed. He could not believe what he was seeing. 6 humans had defeated over 200 Krynox raiders. It was impossible. It was insane. "Sir, they've accessed our communication network," his technical officer reported. "They're broadcasting our position to the entire sector." "What?" "They've also sent evidence of our raids on other colonies. Our war crimes. Our slave operations, everything." The commander's face went pale. If the Galactic Coalition saw this evidence, the Krynox would be hunted across every civilized world. Their organization would be destroyed. "Prepare to bombard the colony from orbit," he ordered. "Kill everyone. Destroy all the evidence. Sir, that's a war crime. The Coalition already has the evidence. Our only chance is to destroy these humans before they can testify against us." The command ship's weapons began to power up. On the ground, Haywan detected the energy signature. "Ji-un, they're preparing orbital bombardment," she reported. 2 minutes until they can fire." Ji-un looked up at the sky where the Krynox ship hung like a distant star. "Then we need to stop them." "How?" "We don't have anti-ship weapons." "No," Ji-un agreed. "But we have Nari." The pilot appeared beside them, her face grim. "You want me to fly up there? Can you do it?" Nari looked at the Incheon sitting in the plaza. The small ship was designed for rapid response, not space combat. It had no shields, minimal armor, and weapons designed for ground support, not ship-to-ship warfare. "Probably not," she admitted. "But I'll try anyway, because that was what humans did. When something was impossible, they tried anyway." The Incheon lifted off with an acceleration that would have killed most species. Nari pushed the engines past their safety limits, climbing toward the Krynox command ship at a speed that made the hull groan in protest. In the back, Ji-un and her team held onto restraints as G-forces tried to crush them into their seats. Captain Hyunwoo had joined them for this assault. He could not sit safely in orbit while his people fought and died below. Besides, someone needed to stay with the ship, and that someone might as well be him. "They're locking weapons on us," Hyunwoo reported from the co-pilot seat. "I see them," Nari replied calmly. The Krynox command ship fired. Energy beams lanced through space toward the tiny human vessel. Nari jerked the controls, sending the Incheon into a spinning barrel roll that no sane pilot would attempt. The beams missed by meters. More weapons fired. The Incheon's shields flickered and died. Alarms blared through the cockpit. Nari ignored them all. She flew like she was still in atmosphere, using maneuvers that made no sense in space but somehow worked anyway. "Their shields are up," Hyunwoo said. "We can't get through." "Yes, we can," Woo Jin called from the back. He had opened a weapons panel and was manually targeting the shield generators. "Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. Not these." He fired the Incheon's kinetic mass driver. It was an old weapon, barely used anymore, kept mainly for debris clearing. The solid metal slug traveled at a significant fraction of light speed. It punched through the Krynox energy shield like a hammer through glass. The shield flickered and failed in one section. Nari saw her opening. She pushed the ship straight toward it, engines screaming. The Krynox point defense systems fired desperately, but Nari was too fast, too unpredictable. The Incheon took hits. Hull plates peeled away. One engine died, but Nari kept flying. They crashed into the Krynox docking bay with enough force to tear the Incheon's landing gear completely off. The ship skidded across the deck in a shower of sparks, finally slamming into a bulkhead. The rear hatch blew open. Ji-un led her team out at a run, weapons firing. Krynox security forces had been rushing toward the crash. They ran directly into 5 angry humans. The fight in the docking bay was short and brutal. The Krynox had expected to fight a crashed crew, disoriented and injured. Instead, they faced humans who seemed energized by the collision. Taemin was limping from the crash but fought like nothing was wrong. Ji-un's lip was bleeding, but her aim was perfect. Wu Jin had cracked ribs, but he laughed as he fired. Within minutes, the docking bay was secured. Hyun-woo stayed with the Incheon, trying to get the damaged systems back online. The rest of the team moved into the ship's corridors. The Krynox command ship was designed for a crew of 200. Long corridors connected different sections. The lighting was dim, suited for Krynox eyes that saw well in darkness. The gravity was 0.8 of Earth standard, comfortable for most species. For humans, it felt light and easy. Ji-yoon split the team. She and Tae-min would head for the bridge. Woo-jin and Haewon would secure engineering. Nari would hunt the corridors, keeping the Krynox forces scattered and confused. The Krynox crew began to realize what was happening. Humans were inside their ship. Deathworlders were hunting them in their own corridors. Fear spread like a virus through the crew. Some ran, some hid. Some tried to fight. Those who ran discovered that humans were persistent predators. Ji-yoon and Taemin chased a group of Krynox through corridor after corridor. The raiders thought they could outrun their pursuers. They were wrong. Humans had evolved to chase prey for hours or even days. After 10 minutes of running, the Krynox were gasping for breath. The humans were barely breathing hard. Those who hid discovered that humans had excellent pattern recognition. Haewon hacked into the ship's internal sensors and tracked life signs. Woo-jin found crew members hiding in storage closets behind panels, even in the ventilation system. He pulled them out and bound their hands, not harming them unless they resisted. Those who fought discovered that combat on a ship was even worse for them than combat on the ground. The corridors were narrow. There was no room to maneuver. The humans used close-quarters combat techniques refined over thousands of years of human conflict. Nari moved through the ship like a ghost. She found a group of 5 Krynox warriors setting up an ambush. She went through the ventilation system, coming up behind them. Before they knew she was there, she had disabled 3 of them. The other 2 surrendered immediately. Ji-yoon and Taemin reached a section of the ship that was overpressurized. A damaged seal had caused the pressure to increase beyond safe levels. For most species, entering would rupture blood vessels and cause death within minutes. Humans had trained for deep-sea diving. High pressure was uncomfortable but not immediately lethal. Ji-yoon and Taemin sealed their helmets and went through. A group of Krynox on the other side were using the pressure zone as a safe haven. They stared in horror as the humans walked calmly through conditions that should have killed them. Taemin approached them with his hands visible. "Surrender and you will not be harmed," he said in Galactic Common. They surrendered. Woo-jin and Haewon reached the engineering section. The engines were guarded by the ship's chief engineer and his 10-person crew. They had sealed the doors and were prepared to fight to the death. Haewon studied the door for 30 seconds. Then she pulled out her portable terminal and started typing. The door's security system was sophisticated by galactic standards. It would take a team of expert hackers hours to break through. She opened it in 2 minutes. The engineering crew stared at their useless security system. Woo-jin stepped through the doorway, his weapon lowered but ready. "I'm giving you one chance," he said. "Power down the weapon systems and you'll be treated as prisoners of war. Refuse and we take the ship by force." The chief engineer looked at his crew. They were scientists and technicians, not warriors. They had families. They had homes. This was just a job and it was not worth dying for. "We'll power down," he said quietly. Woo-jin nodded. Smart choice. On the bridge, the Krynox commander watched his ship fall apart around him. His forces were surrendering. His crew was hiding, and the humans were coming. He had 20 guards with him on the bridge, the best warriors on the ship. They would make a stand here. They would kill these Deathworlders or die trying. Ji-yoon and Taemin reached the bridge entrance. The door was sealed and reinforced. It would take heavy explosives to break through. Explosives they did not have. "Any ideas?" Taemin asked. Ji-yoon thought for a moment. Then she contacted Haewon. "Can you vent the atmosphere from the bridge?" "Yes, but anyone inside would..." "The commander has environmental suits. He'll survive. Do it." Haewon hesitated only a second, then accessed the environmental controls. The air began to pump out of the bridge. Alarms blared. The Krynox warriors on the bridge looked around in panic as they realized they were losing atmosphere. The commander cursed and ordered his warriors to put on emergency suits. It took them 90 seconds. That was 85 seconds too long. When they had sealed their suits, the bridge door opened. Ji-yoon and Taemin walked in calmly, their armor's environmental systems keeping them alive in the vacuum. The commander looked at them with a mixture of fear and rage. "You fight without honor. he said through his suit's communication system. We fight to win, Ji-un replied. And to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That's the only honor that matters. The commander drew his ceremonial blade. It was a plasma sword, capable of cutting through almost any material. He was trained in its use, a master of his people's ancient fighting arts. I challenge you to single combat, he said. If you defeat me, my crew will surrender. If I defeat you, your team withdraws. Ji-un looked at him. He was twice her size. His blade was longer than she was tall. In any fair fight, he would win easily. She drew her combat knife. I accept. The commander charged, his blade leaving trails of superheated plasma in the vacuum. He was strong and skilled and confident. He had trained his entire life for combat. He had defeated champions from a dozen worlds. Ji-un had trained on Earth where everything was trying to kill you and only the adaptable survived. She dodged the first strike by millimeters. The second strike she deflected with her knife, using the blade's angle to redirect the plasma sword. The third strike she stepped inside of, moving so close that the long blade could not reach her. She struck at his knee. Her knife found the suit seal. Air hissed out. The commander tried to back away, but Ji-un stayed with him, moving like she was part of his shadow. She struck at his elbow joint, at his hip seal, at his helmet connection. Each strike was precise, surgical. She was not trying to kill him. She was trying to disable his suit. After 90 seconds of combat, the commander's suit was leaking air from a dozen points. His movements were slowing as oxygen deprivation began to affect him. His blade grew heavier in his hands. Ji-un stepped back and pointed her pistol at his helmet. Yield, she said. The commander dropped his blade. Through his helmet, she could see tears of shame and rage on his face. He had been defeated by a creature half his size, using nothing but a knife and superior skill. I yield, he whispered. Ji-un contacted the ship's intercom. This is Commander Ji-un of... 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Coalition fleet arrived at Thessian Prime. 5 massive warships dropped out of FTL speed, expecting to find destroyed buildings, scattered refugees, and mass graves. Instead, they found something that confused every sensor operator on every ship. The colony was mostly intact. The Velhari were alive and rebuilding. And the entire Krynox raider fleet was captured, with prisoners organized in neat detention areas and their ships secured under human guard. Admiral Korath of the Torgan Empire commanded the coalition fleet. He was a veteran of 50 military campaigns and had never seen anything like this. He contacted the colony's administrator immediately. This is Admiral Korath. We received your distress call. What is the situation? Velthara's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but alive, and there was something new in her expression. Hope, perhaps, or pride. Admiral, the situation is secure. The Krynox raiders have been defeated and captured. Defeated? By whom? We did not have forces in this sector. By the humans, Admiral. Earth sent 6 people, they saved us. Korath was silent for a long moment. Then he said, 6 people defeated a Krynox raiding force? That is impossible. I watched them do it, Velthara replied quietly. It was terrifying and beautiful and impossible, but they did it. The humans did it. The coalition fleet sent down inspection teams. They walked through the colony, documenting everything. They found evidence of fierce fighting, clever tactics, and careful precision. The humans had fought hard, but had also gone to great lengths to minimize Velhari casualties. Buildings that could have been destroyed were carefully preserved. Civilians who might have been caught in crossfire were protected, and the prisoners were being treated well. Too well, by some military standards. The Krynox were being given medical care, food, and shelter. Those who had surrendered early were being treated better than those who had fought to the end. But even the worst offenders were not being tortured or abused. Captain Hyunwoo met with Admiral Korath on the flagship. The Torgan admiral was 3 meters tall and massed as much as a small vehicle. Hyunwoo was average human height and looked like a child standing next to him. You achieved something remarkable here, Korath said carefully. But I must ask, your tactics, they were aggressive. We did what was necessary to protect the Velhari, Hyunwoo replied. You used kinetic weapons, you collapsed buildings, you employed what most species would call forbidden tactics. We used effective tactics. The Kranoks were trying to massacre an entire colony. We stopped them with minimal loss of life, including minimal Kranoks casualties considering the odds. Would you have preferred we let them die while waiting for more proper methods? Korath studied the human. There was no arrogance in his words, only simple truth. The humans had saved lives. They had won against impossible odds. And they had done it with a combination of violence and mercy that Korath found both disturbing and admirable. The Coalition will need to review this incident, he said finally. Earth status is still provisional. Your methods are controversial. Our methods work, Hyunwoo said. The Velhari are alive. The Krinoks' criminal organization is exposed. Justice will be served. Isn't that what the Coalition is supposed to protect? The Admiral had no answer to that. On the colony surface, Ji-un and her team were helping with reconstruction. Taemin had set up a medical clinic and was treating wounded Velhari. His rough bedside manner was oddly comforting to patients who had seen him fight like a demon and were now watching him work with gentle precision to heal. Haewon was helping restore the colony's computer systems and improving their security. The Velhari watched in amazement as she worked through their most complex problems like they were simple puzzles. Woojin and Nari were teaching some of the younger Velhari basic self-defense, not to make them warriors, but to give them confidence. The young Velhari were clumsy and weak by human standards, but Woojin was patient and encouraging. You don't have to be strong, he told them. You have to be smart and brave. Those are more important. Administrator Velthara watched the humans work and felt something she had never expected to feel. Gratitude, yes, relief, certainly, but also a strange affection for these dangerous, violent, kind creatures from the death world. She organized a ceremony to honor the humans. The entire colony gathered in the central plaza. The buildings around them still showed battle damage, but the Velhari had decorated them with lights and flowers. It was a celebration of survival. Velthara spoke to the assembled crowd. 3 days ago, we called for help. We did not know who would answer. We did not know if anyone would answer. But these 6 humans came. They came from Earth, a world so dangerous that most species cannot imagine it. They came with weapons and violence and tactics that frightened us. She paused, looking at Ji-un and her team. But they also came with honor, with mercy, with a determination to protect us that never wavered, even when they were hurt, even when the odds were against them, even when it would have been easier to leave us to our fate. They are Deathworlders, yes, but they are also heroes. The Velhari applauded in their way, a gentle humming sound that filled the plaza. The humans stood together, uncomfortable with the attention, but accepting it gracefully. Liaison Vel approached Ji-un. He had been terrified of her just days ago. Now he saw her differently. I must apologize, he said. I was afraid of you, of all humans. I thought you were monsters. We are monsters, Ji-un replied honestly, when we need to be. But we choose when to be monsters and when to be people. That choice is what makes us human. A monument was erected in the plaza. It was simple, 6 pillars carved with the names of the humans who had saved the colony. Beneath the pillars, an inscription in Galactic Common. When darkness came, the Deathworlders answered, not because we deserved their help, not because they had to, but because it was right. May we never forget that the strongest warriors are those who fight not for conquest, but for protection, not for glory, but for justice, not for themselves, but for others. The Galactic Coalition held an emergency session to discuss the Thessian Prime incident. Dozens of species debated humanity's actions. Some praised them, some condemned them, some simply did not understand them. In the end, the Coalition made a decision. Earth would be granted full membership with one condition. Human forces could be deployed to respond to emergencies, but only with Coalition oversight. It was not the full freedom Earth wanted, but it was a beginning. More importantly, something else began to happen. Other colonies started sending their distress calls not just to the Coalition, but directly to Earth. Word had spread about what 6 humans had accomplished. Other peaceful species who had no military, who lived in fear of raiders and criminals. They now knew there was someone who would come when they called. Captain Hyunwoo returned to Earth's orbital station to find his communication channels flooded with requests. A mining colony under pirate attack. A research station threatened by a hostile species. A refugee ship stranded in dangerous space. All of them asking for the same thing. Help from Earth. Help from the Deathworlders. Hyunwoo looked at the requests and smiled. Earth had wanted to be part of the galactic community. Now they had a role, not as conquerors, not as explorers, but as protectors, as the people who answered when others called for help. Ji-eun and her team were given medals and recognition, but what they valued most was a simple message from Administrator Velthara. Thank you for showing us that being dangerous and being good are not opposites. Thank you for teaching us that sometimes the monsters are the heroes. Months later, young Velhari students would learn about the Battle of Thessian Prime in their history classes. They would learn about the Krynox raiders. They would learn about the distress call. And they would learn about 6 humans who came from a death world and saved them all. The lesson would always end the same way. When someone calls for help, you answer. That is what heroes do. That is what the humans taught us. And across the galaxy on 1,000 different worlds, the same realization was spreading. The Deathworlders of Earth were dangerous. They were violent. They were capable of terrible things. But they were also capable of choosing to do good, and that choice made all the difference. Nari sat in her quarters on Earth, looking at the stars through her window. Somewhere out there, someone would need help. Someone would send out a desperate call, and Earth would answer. Not because they had to, not because they were ordered to, but because when you have the strength to help others, you have the responsibility to use it. That was the human way. That was why the galaxy was starting to understand that while Earth might be a death world, and humans might be Deathworlders, they were also exactly the kind of friends you wanted in the universe. Dangerous when they needed to be, kind when they could be, and always answering when someone called for help, even if it scared everyone involved.